Okay, we are gonna kick it off, guys. We still have a few people coming in the doors here, so to speak, and feel free to just come on in and have a seat as we get going on our webinar about Great Plains and moving beyond Great Plains and talk about what comes next. So, see some familiar faces and companies here joining us today. So, welcome, and we're glad to have you here, and some new ones too. That's also fun. So we're really excited to share with you guys a little bit of our plan for moving beyond Great Plains. And if you have not done a lot of research into next steps and what options are out there and sort of the state of Great Plains, and this is going to be very helpful for you. We have about 30 minutes planned for you today. So let's just jump in. All right, so first of all, this is me. I'm your host. My name is David. I work on the sales team here at TrinSoft. I'm glad to be able to be your host today. You can screenshot this if you'd like. This is my contact information. You can find my email and phone number there, and my LinkedIn is just linkedin.com with that / on there. Um, but I do want to talk just for a minute about TrinSoft itself. Before I do that, I encourage you to use the Q&A feature. So I have my colleague Bobby, who is also on our call today. So thanks, Bobby, for being my backup here. Q&A allows you to type in a question that we can answer. And if Bobby or I want to answer it live, we can do that, but a lot of times we'll just type it in. So feel free to use the Q&A. You can also put your email address in there if you'd like a copy. We're going to record today's session. So if you'd like a copy of that, then we'll share that with you. So put your email address in the Q&A if you'd like, and we'll be in touch with you. So very quickly, TrinSoft, and many of you know us, but we've been around since the 90s as a Microsoft Solutions partner, and a lot of things we'd like to put on our giant list here, but we have just a few things here. We're consistently in the top 100 value-added resellers for Microsoft. We have a very close relationship with them that we're quite proud of. We work with a lot of clients across the whole United States. This number is growing all the time, and so in a lot of different industries as well. So one of the things I'm most proud about is we don't just sell a lot of licenses. We do a lot of custom development, and we really create solutions that are based on mostly Business Central these days, but we can do a lot of customization. So pretty much when you come to us, companies come to us looking for something, they say, I need this particular piece to work really well, then that's what our developers can do. They love that sort of challenge. So just briefly, what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at the timeline. Not a lot of pieces on that timeline, so we're going to look at that quickly. We're going to talk about how that impacts your business and your Great Plains environment, what your options are, some things to consider, which is probably one of the highlights of our short time together today. And then what TrinSoft can do to support you in that, and then some kind of encouragement in terms of making plan and taking some action steps there. All right, here's the timeline. We used to talk about a little bit different timeline, but things are kind of moving forward, so we're moving off the timeline here. So last year, Microsoft stopped selling perpetual licenses for Great Plains, and as of a month from now, or actually just a week or so, April 1st, no new subscription licenses in for Great Plains either. So they are definitely moving out of the Great Plains world, and you can see that by their timeline. Now, after April, you got a couple of years before it's fully end of life. But this is the timeline that's in front of you. So they're definitely not investing a lot and putting a lot of effort and work into Great Plains right now. So it's gonna keep rolling, and they're gonna still take your enhancement renewal and cost and that sort of thing for a couple more years. But definitely their times are changing there, and they're investing more in Business Central. So, but what does that mean, really? This is what we're getting into here. So for you guys that are using Great Plains, really the new features and innovation are not going to be there. Microsoft is definitely, because they know it's end of life, they've done this with a few other products, and they will stretch that out and do some basic support for a few more years, but they're not innovating in GP. And investing in new technologies and new features and that sort of thing. So if there's something you thought, man, I wish this always would work in Great Plains, it's probably not going to work in Great Plains because they're pretty well done with that. But they're gonna kind of keep the product alive for a few more years. So limited updates, very serious security things. They will release that, but they're not going to be a lot of um, features and this little fix that you wish would work and that you feel like that they should be able to fix quickly. They probably aren't going to put those little fixes in there anymore. So they're mostly going to be concerned about security updates. And that's all because they're investing in Business Central. That is the new flagship product that replaces Great Plains on the Microsoft side. So that's really what end of life means for you. Now, in terms of thinking about your plan, we're going to talk about some considerations here in just a minute, but just a very general overview here. Um, what we find, because we do this all day long and we're doing Great Plains support for a lot of companies, a lot of them are moving to Business Central or have already moved. But what we see, because I know for you all, you don't do this every day. This is not, you might have been on GP for 5 to 10 years. Some of you a longer than that. Um, and so think about it in terms of annual budgets, because what we often find is company will come to us and say, we're interested. We know that we need to move on from GP, or it's time. And there's often other factors like personnel changes or somebody's retiring or something like that. But the budget cycle is a very important consideration. So, and we'll get into this in just a minute here, but honestly, the longer term cost is in many cases going down for a lot of companies, but there is typically some cost to the implementation. So if a company like TrinSoft supports you through that implementation, then we do the work of helping you with all the data and the implementation. And so longer term, the 3 to 5 year horizon, your costs in many cases actually go down because Business Central licenses are pretty affordable. So but do think about the annual budget. So you want to plan for, it's already 2026, almost April. And so you want to plan for 2027, or maybe you've already allocated for this year and you're ready to move, or if that makes financial sense now, that's also fine. But think about it in terms of annual plan. So however your fiscal year is set up, then do some planning ahead. And you know how it is, you have to do that work to get the approval for the budget, and you can't start that the day before or the week before. You have to start that months before. So data cleanup, also very important. There is that whole idea of, I always think of moving from one house to another. You don't want to move all your junk. Actually, my family and I moved one time, and we had the help of a mover, which was great. But the moving company, when we got to the new house, we started opening boxes, and they had put a garbage full of garbage in the box. And so we opened this box. We're like, that's the garbage can from the girls' room, and it's full of garbage. That was kind of funny. So you don't want to do that. You do not want to move your garbage from one system to another. So there are differences in some of how the data is set up and the structure in Business Central, for example. But it's going to do you good to clean up your data at any point. So you really have two things that are going to happen to that. It's either going to be moved into a new product like Business Central, or you're going to archive that in some way. So either way, you don't want to archive the mess or move the mess. So, and also just consider an opportunity to clean things up, to improve, make things better. So it's a great time. What we find with a lot of companies is they really they have some ideas about how to improve their business and business processes and that sort of thing. And so this is a great opportunity to do that. What a shame to just say we want it to be, we don't want to change anything, but just move a little bit of the data over to a new system and just to survive that. I understand how that could be the reality just sometimes, but it's a great time to look at your processes and see how you can streamline and be more efficient and do more with less with a new system. So think about your plan. These are kind of three biggies for us. And we've simplified this down to basically three options. So you've got option number one, which is wait, and that works fine. You can do that. You can stay on GP a little while longer and just keep going. There's some things to think about if you choose to wait, and we'll look at that in just a minute. But option number one, wait. Option number two, hybrid. And some of you have thought of this probably, but some of you may not have thought about this. We do have some companies that say, we want to take a smaller step towards getting away from the GP server, which is in a server room or the basement or wherever that might be. It's like an on-premises local server, and our IT policy says we want to move these servers off campus, off of our site, and so we were moving these things away from our building or whatever. Um, so a lot of companies are considering this option of hybrid, and we can help you with that at TrinSoft. If you choose to move to what we would do, would host on Azure. And so it is possible to host GP in Azure, which means you're using the cloud. You're sort of putting a local server in the cloud and operating that way, but it does help you meet some of your maybe IT requirements and that kind of thing. So we can talk about that. And then option three, migrate to the cloud-based solution. So that's your big one. That's the one that's gonna take some time, and it's going to be your longer term payoff type of solution. So even if you're moving GP to the cloud, like option two here, it's still end of life in a couple of years. So you're really that's like a short term plan, but it is for some people it does make sense. So TrinSoft, as a company, we've helped a lot of companies with this transition, and so we kind of have created these four buckets for you and for these considerations. And actually, at the end of our presentation, I have a little bit of a bonus thing for you where we're going to talk about some pitfalls to avoid with the GP to BC move, if that's what you're looking at. And so, but here are the four categories that they kind of fit in. So IT security, IT insecurity is one of them. As I mentioned before, sometimes your IT policy says we need to move servers off site. We're getting out of the hardware and power business. We don't want to replace all these servers every 4 or 5 years or whatever. And so you might have some compliance issues or other regulations that require you to move to the cloud or something like that. So that's a pretty big consideration. Are you running IT support? Do you have a team that maintains a set of servers? Um, I mean, most likely those are virtual machines, but however they're set up, is that just something you're going to keep maintaining and all the licenses and that kind of thing? Because you don't need that with Business Central, for example, because it's cloud-based and you just pay per user and you're not paying for a quotes server in that system. Second consideration would be growth plans. And so is your company growing? Are you looking to expand? Are you starting a new business, or are you incorporating a second company with your business or something like that? If you're growing, you're probably going to need to look at new options for your software. And so if your company's getting smaller, or you have an exit plan or something like that, this does not apply. But for many of you, as you grow, and a lot of companies do want to grow, that's kind of built into to business. And so think about how you want to grow. Your options are more limited with GP long term. I just talked with a company this week. They said they know they're going to grow in they have a 5-year plan, and they have a goal, a business goal and business plan for that. And so that requires Business Central in order for them to get larger and to move on. And so reporting also a big consideration. So you might be using a third-party tool or maybe the built-in tools in GP right now, but there are some great new options. If you're using Business Central, something else, whatever that option might be, then you need to just consider reporting. And sometimes those tools that you used before, if you're used to those tools, sometimes they'll work great in Business Central. Sometimes you don't need them because you can use something like Power BI or the built-in BC reports. Other times you want to keep that tool going. All right. So, but then you need to do your research or work with us and say, yeah, we know that product does work with Business Central. It also worked with GP. And so that's great. We're just going to stick with that reporting tool, whatever that might be. And integrations, kind of the same thing applies there. So whatever integrations you might be using with GP, either you might not need it in BC, in Business Central, or vice versa. It might not work with BC if it's a fairly old type of extension to Great Plains or something like that. So we need to work with you, or you need to figure that on your own to figure out, is that integration still going to work? Is it necessary, and does it still work? Those are kind of the two big questions there. So these are your four buckets, things to consider when you're talking about the move away from Great Plains. Okay, what does that process actually look like? This is just a graphic that kind of shows you, this is our process here at TrinSoft. And so if we were to help you, it would look something like this. If you did this on your own, you would want to do a similar type of process as well. But that first step is the process workshop for us. And so, as I said before, this is not something you do every day or every year, but we do it because this is what we live and breathe for and what we love to do. And so, helping companies implement Business Central and really think about that process is huge for us, and it's what we do all the time. So we bring that type of experience into the scenario here. So we look at all your whole system, all your procedures, all your workflows, everything like that, and give an overview of what's happening there. And then from there, we create your roadmap. And so this is typically a separate step for us, but that's something we would talk about with you, whether we could just do the process workshop and then work with you from there. But for us, it's step number one, the process workshop. That's a really important piece. It's really the roadmap for the rest of the process. So let's start there. That's the number one thing to do. We don't want to jump into installation and that kind of thing without a great plan. So step two, installation and setup. Now, as I mentioned, of course, Business Central is cloud-based, so you don't need to set up a server, so to speak, but we do still set up Business Central instance on your tenant, on your Microsoft tenant. And so there are some pieces for us to do there to make sure everything is ready to go. And then we get accounts created and kind of get the structure set up and all that kind of thing according to the plan that we've created with you. So data conversion is a biggie. As I mentioned before, some of that data might be archived. Some of that data you might want in Business Central. It can go into Business Central in a few different ways. We can do an import into Business Central in a way that you can look back at prior years and they look as if they were done in Business Central. Not every company wants their data that way. Some companies will say, well, we just need a year like that and we're fine. And then the other data we want to be in an archive that's kind of like cold storage. And so that's really according to your business needs, but we help you talk through that and through your options about how available the archives might be. But so master records, open records, all the historical data, we work with you when we plan that whole data conversion, but it's also helpful for that to be clean data because it just takes a lot longer for both of us to kind of go through the whole process if the data is messy. But we help work through that because we recognize there's probably been changes over the years to your data structure. So number four is training, and very, very important for us. Also, the Learn page from Microsoft is actually very, very good. I've worked with a lot of different software, and I think it's above average in terms of the education and the learning you can get through the Learn page on Microsoft. So you have that resource, and then of course we know your setup and your system. So we use this the trainer approach where we have like a core team of people that we work with, and then we help you understand how everything works and how to set things up and that sort of work. From there, testing, testing, testing. Can't say it enough. Do lots of testing. The implementations that we see that where they struggle or if they have some pain through the process, it's sometimes at this testing stage where they're like, yeah, we tested, it works, let's go. They're ready to go live, But the ones where we see that are the most successful and the operate, that they get there sooner, they do enough testing so that they make sure that their go live goes really, really well. And then that last step of go live there, that's a fun time for everyone. New system, new data working as it should. In a new system, that's a lot of fun. And then from there, what you don't see for 7, 8, 9, 10 is ongoing support. And it's something that at TrinSoft we really value is our relationship with our clients and customers. Because we don't just sell licenses or we don't just do the implementation and just sort of walk away. You'll get to know real humans on our team, and you'll have people that understand you and your business really well and work closely with you. So this question comes up sometimes, why bother doing anything at all? And I guess that's a valid question. I mentioned a little bit before the long-term costs, and I'm thinking of one business that I worked with recently, and their 3 to 5 year, about the 4 year mark, um, they were starting to get very significant savings because they were hesitant because they didn't want to go through the pain of changing a system, and they were also, like, well, we can just kind of stick with the status quo and keep paying for GP. But then a simple look at their math just said they're going to spend more money in the next 4 years trying to keep up GP. But then eventually you're going to have to change anyway because it is end of life in 2029. And so you probably 2027, 2028, you're going to have to start that whole process. And anyway, do look at your long-term costs. I think, I can't speak for your company, of course, but a lot of cases that actually you end up saving money because the BC Business Central licenses are fairly affordable, and you're not paying for all that infrastructure that you might have before. If you're on Azure, you're keeping up servers and that kind of thing. And obviously, you get the new technology. So if you're using old technology, you know, um, I'm a car person, so I always think of cars. And you can drive an old car. I drive a pretty old car, but um, you're not getting the features, the lane assist and the safety features and the cameras and all that stuff that you might get from a newer car. So even if I can pay the same money and keep the old car, then I'm not getting the features of the new. So think about that. And then we talked a little bit already about security and compliance. And so you probably have some regulations there that you have to maintain, and that is much simpler with a modern product that's not end of life. So in terms of TrinSoft and what we do, how we can help, we can start with an assessment. That's an easy one. We will just do a call with you, and I'm happy to do that. I'll share my contact information again here on the screen. Um, we can do full-on planning. We, of course, do the migration to Business Central and then do support as well. So that's the role that we play here. And so we encourage you to take some action. The free assessment I just talked about, happy to have that conversation, kind of get an idea of where you are right now, and give you our assessment on what we think is the next step for you. We also find it successful to just pick a date and work towards that date. Instead of just like, it's coming someday, just kick it down the road. Say, all right, we're planning this for 2027 go live. And so we'll work back from that date. And then communicate with your team. And in your case, is it an owner or a board or however your company is set up and the structure of your company? Make sure that they know that that's something that needs to be planned for, and that you need to make sure that you're ready to do for the transition for the people in your company. You don't want to caught off guard and go, oh, yeah, this is the year we got to have this all done. Just keep mentioning that to the right people. So we talked about the timeline, kind of the impact on your environment, what your options are, a few planning considerations, how we can support you, and then how to take action. So now I'm going to show you the quick pitfalls here. All right, this is your bonus content, guys. All right, and this is also available in a PDF, which you may have seen if you've been poking around on our website. We also did a video series on it as well. So again, if you'd like to see the full PDF, we can share that with you. You can just put your email in the Q&A section there, and we can share this PDF with you. But there's 14 of them, so hang on. We're going to go pretty quick. All right, don't want to take time on too much time on every single one. So first one is underestimating the scope of change. So the change from GP to Business Central is not just just new colors on the screen and the menus are moved to the bottom. It is a new product. And so you need to understand that it is new and it's going to take time. And it'll be a change for your users in your company. So we talked about data as well. That is definitely one of the pitfalls. You think your data is clean, but talk to us and we'll help you know if it's really clean. So we'll help you with getting your data ready and that sort of thing, because we have data experts that are great at that. End user training, we also talked a little bit about, but you don't want to just don't forget about the person that might use it occasionally, the new product occasionally, and make sure everybody gets trained. Again, your business processes, this is the time to get those right and to change those. So this is one of the pitfalls that people don't really reevaluate, and then they kind of get in and go, that would have been a great time to change this, and this, or a group comes and says, we have this idea, we want to do this in our business. but you're not ready for it because you didn't really plan it. Now, Business Central is a flexible system, and our team is great at helping you customize that in the way you want to, but better to do it as part of your whole process as well. Again, well, speaking about customization, um, by now, a lot of companies have a lot of customization in GP, and that's great. We can help you with that. We might be doing that for you already, actually. But we always like to say when you're moving to Business Central, look at your processes. Does it fit in with the default Business Central? If it does, then great. Let's not make the change. But the flip side of that is we can help you with those customizations if you need them because we have a very strong development team. But if it's going to do it out of the box, so to speak, then just use what Business Central can offer you. So reporting we talked a bit about before as well, but don't forget about reporting, and then your integrations as well. Think consider all of those as you're moving forward. All right. Number 8, choosing the wrong implementation partner. So there are a lot of companies out there that don't know GP and they've just said, we can help you with Business Central or they can help you with some other product. But we know both GP and Business Central. That's really key because we understand the language that you're speaking in GP and we can help you on the Business Central side. And I love the fact that we are a group of human beings that really care about you and talk with you. You're not going to get a different person every time you talk on the phone. So we love the personal touch that we have here at TrinSoft. Just a little bit of pride in that one. Um, so make sure people understand why they're doing this because this is true of any new process, and you probably already realize this, but people need to know, why it's happening, what's the change for, because change is tough. It's an emotional thing, it's a logical thing that kind of mixed together. So making sure people understand, what you're doing and why you're doing it as a company, very important. Now, number 10 gets into the nitty-gritty of the chart of accounts. There's a different structure in Business Central than there is in GP. And so you do need to understand the difference in those two things, kind of how those things are going to play together and how they're going to work together. So evaluating that and just planning ahead for that. Looking at new ISV solutions, also very important. Again, we talked a little bit about some of those extensions and add-ons you might be using with GP. Smart lists are not there in Business Central, and I know some people are like, "Oh no, smart lists, where they go?" There are ways around that, and there's actually some tools that kind of take your smart lists and kind of convert them into Business Central. And so we just have to help you weigh through those options. And there's options with filtering and that sort of thing that you can do that create some of the same types of things or ad hoc queries, that sort of thing. So we can help you with that transition. So don't worry too much about that, but you don't want to just assume that they're there, right? Like, let's make sure. We threw in binary stream for multi-entity management because you can have multiple companies in Business Central, but binary stream is there as an option in Business Central. But do you need it? As you're thinking through your options, you might, and that's great. And we can help you set that up, but it's just another consideration for you. And save the best for last year, the timeline and your internal resources. So make sure you allow plenty of time for change. Very, very important. And also internal resource needs. So again, one of the things we see that makes the most successful implementations are when a company has a true dedicated person. I mean, of course, you would probably love for them to be, full time, 40 hours a week for a few months on nothing but the transition. But I know that's probably not realistic, but that's the sort of scenario that'd be amazing, right? But do allocate your resources towards it. If you're looking around and like who's running this implementation project here, nobody's really knows what's happening and no one's in charge, I mean, we will do our part, but at your company, you're going to need someone that's kind of like has a handle on that. So don't forget that you're going to need some internal resources for any type of change, whatever that is. All right, just a quick slide or two here on Business Central itself. It is, of course, part of the Microsoft stack, and some of you all already know that, but it's just a very, very clean and nice sort of advantage to Business Central. The fact that you've got Teams integration and Excel integration, Outlook integration, and those features that are working very, very well together. It's something that just makes it a very natural choice. Now, Copilot, you've probably heard of Copilot. I'm just guessing you might have heard of Copilot and AI. And so it's a huge part of Business Central and it's growing all the time. The initial AI features were more of a chat type of Copilot feature where you could just ask questions about your data and that sort of thing. That's great. Or how to do something. That's also great. And then they allowed you to analyze data. So you can analyze a screen in Business Central and say, show me all of this. And it's helpful with that. And now they've moved on to agents. So if you follow news about Copilot and AI, you'll know that agents are kind of the 2026 AI that everyone is talking about. So they have several different agents now, and those agents are doing the work for you as opposed to just answering a question or something like that. They will sit and check things and then take action on your behalf. And so I love seeing what Microsoft is doing with Copilot in Business Central, and it's definitely one of those things that in the GP world there's not a Copilot feature built in there, guys. So. And again, this is the Business Central is at the center here, but it is a full powered ERP. You've got project management, manufacturing, supply chain, of course, service, sales, financial management at the core of it. And so very, very important to remember that it is a full ERP and we are able to help you in implementing Business Central at all of these different levels. So, and not everybody needs all those things. You might not be someone that's does manufacturing at all, and that's totally fine, but very, very robust. So, last slide here before I just show my login and stuff again, or my email, sorry. In terms of Business Central, it's cloud-based, obviously, that full integration that we just talked about. Scalability is huge, no server required. So if you need to add 3 or 4 more users, you don't have to go, put RAM in a server or allocate more virtual machine resources to a server. It's just automatic, which we love. And it's one of the beautiful things about Business Central. So great analytics. We didn't get into that too much today, but Power BI is huge. And there are 70 something reports built into Business Central now that are Power BI reports, but you can also use Power BI, of course, to enhance that even more. If you're doing manufacturing or supply chain work or whatever, inventory, that sort of thing, very, very robust. And it has just a lot of more flexible options for you when you're thinking about your business and growth and kind of streamlining things just because it's a modern technology. So it's fairly, I won't say it's fairly new. It's about 8 years old now, but definitely a huge growing product. Microsoft's putting a lot of development into it, which is great to see. It's mobile. You can use it on a tablet or a smartphone. It's obviously secure. And because Microsoft's investing so much in it, we're just seeing these new features coming out all the time that are really, really helping everyone. So this is me, guys. This is my email address here on the screen. You feel free to take a screenshot or give me a call. Find me on LinkedIn, just linkedin.com/David Beatty. We're really glad that you guys were here today. Bobby, I'll take just a minute and see if there's anybody Q&A. I will just check it real quickly and see.
Yep, no questions. A couple of requests for the presentation slides and recording, but no direct questions
Okay.
at the moment.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bob. So we're good to go. I really appreciate everybody being here. We are really, really excited about what your options are in Great Plains. Again, you got those 1, 2, 3, those 3 options that I talked about. So we're here for you. If you just want to send me an email and say, hey, let's just talk. I'm not going to pressure you or drive you crazy or anything. We can just have a conversation. And you can say, look, I'm looking at 2027. Let's just see, what other things should I be considering? And you want to talk specifically about your company or your business, then that's fine. We're here for you. You can find us at TrinSoft.com or you can send me an email right here. Hopefully this has been helpful and we've enjoyed having everybody here on our webinars today. And thanks so much for joining.